Good evening, my true crime aficionados. I hope that you are all doing well out there tonight, taking care of yourself, watching out for others. If you're seeing something, saying something, staying safe if you have to. And wanted to talk about a case that has taken place over a period of time, but then at the same time, it's recently been completed. And it was about two neighbors. And it's just also a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I live up here in the mountains, and one day I was out in my car and I was cleaning on the inside. I have a little chihuahua, so I was inside with the doors closed because I wanted to concentrate on what I was doing, not the dog. And then I look up and I see a law enforcement officer on my porch. And I live in front of a really busy street. That's why I wouldn't let my dog out. And I noticed you just looking in the house, had my door open. There's a dirt road between me and where I parked my car, and I'm just in there cleaning away. I kind of look up and I see him knock on the door, and I stand there for a minute because I'm like, really, I have no business with you. I'm not the type of person that wants to deal with law enforcement if I don't have to. So the next thing I see him, he's starting to open my front door and come in my house. So I stand outside of my car and I'm like, hello, excuse me? And he sees me over there, so I come up and I'm like, yeah, I'm cleaning out the inside of my car. What's going on? Well, we've had somebody running around here. Somebody called the cops. They seen somebody, I think, trying to break into somebody's property. I'm like, oh, really? Okay. Well, I live here and I'm certainly not trying to break into anybody's property. Well, you can let me in and look at your house, or you can take the chance that there's somebody in there. And do you have a license, by the way? And he's already reporting on the walkie-talkie. I know why he wants my license. He wants me running my license to make sure I don't have anything in my background that's going to uphold him from taking me away. And also, I grew up in the ghetto, so it isn't like we came up, trusting that law enforcement is on our side. Maybe why I do this true crime. So, I felt in a way very taken advantage of, very played. I knew I had to kind of go along with it. I didn't want to, but then I didn't want to arise any suspicion that I was out there trying to rob somebody in my normal habitat area. So anywho, that's a case I want to talk to you about. It's a case that a podcast broadcaster was very adamant about this gentleman being innocent. I don't know how we just deducted that or what kind of research he did. That part I didn't go that far into. But what I do know is that this gentleman was a neighbor to the lady who was expired. And in the small town of New Chapel Hill, east of Tyler, Texas, Eleanor Griffin, 47, was found to expiration in her home. Ed Cates lived next door with his grandmother. He earned a living as a handyman, and he'd also done work for that very same Ms. Griffin. Investigators took statements from Ates, his grandmother, and his brother as well. Deputies interviewed a neighbor who said she had called Miss Griffin between 9:30 and 10:30 the night of the murder. According to the neighbor, Miss Griffin stated that Ed Ates was present in her home at that time. Ed, who was 25 at the time, was brought in for questioning and was accompanied by his mother. He denied having been in Griffith's home the night of the murder, but indicated that he had been there on previous evenings. He stated that he had been with his girlfriend who would come by to pick him up between 9:30 and 10 on the night of the expiration. When investigators contacted Ed's girl to validate the information, she stated that she and Ed had been together that night, but he had shown up on his own. I don't know. He stated later that he lied because he had borrowed his mother's car without permission. So what is he saying? I guess he was supposed to have somebody with him. That's not very clear here. Brought in for questioning, denied having been in Miss Griffith's home, showed up, had his mother's car without permission. I guess that's validating that the girlfriend wasn't with him the night of the expiration like he thought. It's just a little confusing how they put it on there. So at the time, they're like, oh, yeah, good suspicious guy here. We're going to zone in on him. So because, you lied, so of course that means you committed a crime like expiring somebody off the face of the earth. At the time, a scraping from one of Ed's shoes was taken as evidence due to the violent nature of the violence inflicted on Miss Griffin when she was being victimized. They thought that there might be some type of fecal matter around and that he stepped in and it was on his shoe. Other than that, there was nothing to tie him into the crime itself or any reason why there would have been like anger, but we all know that what goes on in somebody's head doesn't necessarily play out in real world. Despite no physical evidence or motive, Ed was arrested August 26th of 1993 and charged with expiration. He was released on bond after several months. During the trial in 1996. Prosecution offered no proof that the debris on the bottom of Ed's shoe was feces. I don't know why nobody could test it. I'm sure it wasn't a horribly expensive test to do. An FBI expert could only determine that the smudge on Ed's shoe was protein of human origin. Ed's prior criminal record of misdemeanor theft as a teenager was presented as evidence of his criminal history during the trial. The jury could not reach a unanimous decision. Wonder why. And declared a mistrial. Ed was released, and a date for a second trial was then set. While in Dallas in 1998, Ed was mistakenly arrested on a warrant for a misdemeanor theft case from Smith County Jail that had already been disposed of. While in jail, he met a convicted felon, Kenneth Snow, who was awaiting trial for 2 armed robberies, and the 2 men became friends. At Ed's second trial in the 1998 prosecution, the same evidence, in addition to the testimony of this very same Kenneth Snow, who was still awaiting his own trial, hoping he'd get some time cut or get some good stuff going on because he's turning on one of his friends. Ed had confessed to the crime. He said, well, the 2 were in jail together. Haven't we heard that 1,000 times? True and false at the same time. Despite none of the hundreds of pieces of physical evidence, hairs, blood, semen, fingerprints, cigarette butts tying Ed to the crime scene, and no motive, he was then convicted and sentenced to life. All because he had something on the bottom of his shoe that had not been tested. Okay? After Ed was convicted, Kenneth Snow pled guilty and was given 10 years probation despite his extensive criminal record. Well, yeah, you can get off. Of course, you're going to lie your pants off because you've already lied and committed criminal actions in the past, right? In January of 2016, Ed's case came to the attention of Bob Ruff. Oh my God, Tammy. To the attention of Bob Ruff, the podcast Truth and Justice. After investigating Ed's case, Rudd contacted IPTX, who agreed to take on Ed's case. You know, those people like an Innocence Foundation. Ed had his third parole hearing, secured assistance from a parole attorney, and with support from Ed's family, Bob Ruff and Ed, it was released September of 2018. But it's really sad because Bob looked like he had a pretty good relationship with his girlfriend, and he also had some kids. And she was saying that they were married. I don't want to judge what goes on between people's relationships because I had some crazy relationships myself. But anyway, so Ed and her are getting along okay. They're doing all right. And so when he is, found guilty for this crime, which he's later found innocent of, she's driving a long way. She's going for a long time. She's seeing him, she's supporting him, she's doing everything. And, he's telling her, like, the right thing to do if I was in that position is like, hey, you need to get on with your life. Get on with your life. Go ahead and do what you got to do. I don't know what's going to happen here. I love you. And that's why I want to, cry for you as a bird. And so she hung on as long as she could. I could think the stress and the strain and the bills and the raising of the family, everything started getting to her after a while. And she said that she did go eventually down and file for a divorce. But for some reason or another, the courts, I don't know, whatever, because they done that to me too. And so she never heard, she never followed up. He never heard, he never followed up. So they just both assumed, hey, we're still married. And when the Innocence Project was able to assist them in getting out, of course, she was there for him. He said first his son ran up to him and they had a very tight, clinching, hugging, I love you moment. And then the wife and the daughter came up and they all had a beautiful family moment there, which is great, wonderful. But it does not replace the time that you have already lost. What's going on, Cha Cha? You know what I mean? And it's wonderful that you got out, but like you go in as a young person, you come out very old, you miss growing up with your family. All of that can't be replaced. And from what I understand is even though they may get you innocent, that doesn't reimburse you for any of your time off. And he wants his name to be clear. So they got him off and they proved him innocent, but that judgment is still on the books. So he wants his name to be cleared and he's working on that. Um, I don't know you all. Because like I said, you get on the wrong page or you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. I felt very much stressed out with just that minimal situation. I can't even imagine if it's up for expiration of somebody. So, thank goodness in his case that he was able to be redeemed and to move on and to spend time with his family. It is unfortunate that so much time had to go by for the truth to step forward. And Barbara, congratulations to you. I've always hope I can provide something in my podcast when I do these for you that hasn't been heard before or in such a timely fashion that I'm getting the news out there quickly. I never thought of actually being able to, um, you know, provide help in getting somebody out of jail or solving a crime. I think it's wonderful. Anyway, best of luck to you guys. Take care out there. Be safe. Love you all. See you for the next episode.